Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 24th and tonight's movie is Trollhunter. Trollhunter is a 2010 Norwegian found footage movie, which kind of verges more on the side of dark fantasy than a true blue horror movie. It's a lot like Pan's Labyrinth. There are elements of horror and suspense to it, but a little bit more than that, it focuses on the world building and the creativity. I'm giving this movie an 8 out of 10. It had its flaws, but I still liked it. The plot involves these three college kids in Norway, and I guess they start out making a movie about a poaching thing that's happening. People suspect that there are bear poachers out there, so they look around and they come across this one person people talk about. They just call him Hans, and he's really weird, really suspicious. So they try to track him down and ask him questions, and eventually it leads to them getting involved in his business. And they offer to follow him around and document what he does, and he accepts. And he is a troll hunter. In this movie, trolls are these big, giant creatures that lumber around. They die in the sunlight, and they mostly stay away from humans, but sometimes they don't, which is why the troll hunter exists, to exterminate the aggressive ones and help to keep the whole thing a secret. He works for the government. Now, the design for the trolls in this movie are pretty much like how I thought they would look. They don't really have that creative a design. We've kind of seen this before. Instead of creativity with a character design, it kind of goes for more creativity with the rules that they come up with. Some of them work pretty well, some of them don't. They establish that trolls can smell humans, and generally they run away from humans. I don't know why, and the movie doesn't explain why either. It's just sort of the way it works. Even weirder, they make it a point to say that trolls can smell the blood of Christians. And if they smell a Christian person's blood, they actually will seek that person out to kill them. They use a Christian man's blood to lure a troll to a bridge at one point. And by the way, the Trollhunter never explains how he got a big jug of a Christian man's blood, so that's kind of messed up. But they do that, and at the end of the movie, they use surround sound really loud Christian music to make the troll go to a different spot. I have no idea why this is, and I don't even think the movie actually knows why it is. It doesn't really try to make a point about it, it's just sort of something that they added. And it also helps create some drama later, but we'll get to that. Now, the effects were absolutely imperative in this movie, especially considering the way that it was framed. It's framed as this was a bunch of footage that somebody found and sent to the news agencies, and they made it a point at the beginning to say that they examined it and they couldn't find any evidence that they were doctored, so obviously the CG has to be pretty good in order for that to be believable. And I would say that for 70% of it, the CG is pretty good. It's not spectacular, but it's something that'll give a pass. But every so often, especially when they're moving quickly, it just looks bad. And it comes and goes, but it's definitely enough to distract you from the experience sometimes. One impression I got from watching this movie is that it's kind of supposed to be like the found footage version of Jurassic Park. There are elements of horror, because they're giant monsters, but more than that, there's an element of adventure to it. I will say that they had one scene that I think was a little bit too on the nose. They were driving away in a truck from a gigantic troll, and several times they cut to the rear view mirror, the one that's on the side, and they saw the troll behind them. I don't think that was a coincidence, but it came off as more of an homage or a reference than them just copying Jurassic Park. There are a lot of good things about Trollhunter. The aesthetic is great. Some of the shots they get of Norway are absolutely beautiful. There is a lot of creativity when it comes to the trolls and the rules surrounding them. One thing that I particularly liked was the character of the troll hunter himself, Hans. He was just a really likable character. He was up front, he was no nonsense, but he still clearly cared about other people. Out of all the characters, Hans is the one that's the most fleshed out and interesting, and he's pretty much the center of the movie. The actual documentarians don't really have that much of a character to any of them. They mostly just follow around to document and occasionally be cannon fodder. Overall, while I would say that Trollhunter is a little clumsy, there are a lot of things that are sort of brought up and there isn't really a point to them. More than that, I would say that this is a very creative and interesting movie. I think it was fun to watch, and there aren't a lot of found footage movies like it. Alright, now let's talk about some spoilers. So when Hans first asks if any of the three documentarians are Christians, they all say no. Now, later on, after their first experience with the trolls, he insists one of them has to be a Christian because the way they were sniffing around, obviously they smelled him Christian. But again, everybody denies it. And then as you keep going, there are three of them. There's this guy who is the reporter, the person in front of the camera with the microphone. There's the sound girl. She carries a big boom around. And then there's the camera guy. And there's a point in the movie where you start to see that camera guy just starts getting more and more scared. And eventually they go down to a mine and they're stuck there because the trolls walk in and he starts freaking out. Earlier in the movie, in order to mask their scent, they rub themselves with what they called troll stench, which I assume is, I don't know, troll poop, troll sweat, just random stuff that you can get from a troll in order to mask their scent so that the trolls wouldn't sense them or run away. And when they are trapped in the cave, the cameraman is furiously rubbing it all over himself. He looks terrified. And it's revealed that he is a Christian. And I was just wondering, why would he hide that? Maybe he just felt like he had to say no at the beginning because they didn't know what was going on and they just sort of wanted the footage. But after they established that the trolls could still smell him anyway, I wonder why he chose to put himself and his friends at danger. On their escape from the cave, he gets eaten and the camera gets dropped, the lens gets broken, and they have to get not only a new camera, but also a new camera person, so they get this Muslim woman, and they say they don't know if being a Muslim will trigger the trolls or not, but nothing ever comes of it. I don't understand why they brought that up. Throughout the entire movie, he kept saying, do you believe in Jesus or God? So it seemed like monotheistic religions was part of it too, but it turned out to just be Christians. It's this kind of stuff I was referring to when I was talking about things that are brought up that don't really seem to have a point to them. The last part of the movie is a job that the three documentarians, including the new camera woman and Hans, go on. It's this big giant one. This one's 200 feet tall, and it goes around the mountains, and apparently they use power lines, and the trolls are repelled by them. And even the people working at the electric plant don't seem to really question that much why there's just a bunch of power lines going in a circle. But whatever, they go to the troll territory and there's this big giant one and it's the climax of the movie. There's a chase scene with a car. Hans keeps trying to shoot light at it because he has this cannon that shoots ultraviolet light and it kills them. It either turns them to stone or makes them blow up. So that's a pretty good action scene. And then after that, they're walking away because the car got destroyed. And they're walking away and they see a government truck approach them. And the actual government workers they've come across, they all said in no uncertain terms that they would not be able to keep the footage. But they want to get it out, and so does Hans. So they all run off, and it ends with one of them just going by a road, and he falls over or something while a truck is coming up. What they're implying is that the truck driver is the one who found the footage. He just picked it up and then went away. Maybe the documentarian was abducted before then, because I feel more interesting than the footage would have been the body on the road. But apparently he sent it to a news place or a film place, and they made this movie. This kind of makes me wonder just how this entire troll thing was kept secret from the public. Not only is there kind of obvious stuff, the trolls are gigantic, it's not like they can hide. They also do a lot of cover-up, and they establish that they are not very good at it. A lot of it is just sort of something you have to stretch your suspension of disbelief a little bit for. While Trollhunter has problems, I still think it is a very creative and fun movie. It may not be for everybody, but I do think it's worth a watch. I'll see you tomorrow.